Good afternoon. My name is Brittany and today I'm going to be speaking to you about the gender representation in video games, on their cover art, and as well as debunking some of the common objections against having female protagonists in video games. The first study I analyzed was by Tracy L. Diaz, where she found that the most common trend of female representation was actually the complete lack of females in about 30% of games. And as you'll see on the slide, there are very few positive role models for children to look up to, as only 15% are viewed as a hero. However, 21% are viewed as a damsel in distress. This percentage doesn't even include the other negative gender roles that can be seen, such as being eye candy, being victimized, or straight up being seen as unimportant to the video game themselves. Video games can influence these stereotypes among the real world. The second study is done by Beasley and Stanley Collins, and what they found was that they analyzed the dress of gender roles in video games. And they found that females were often dressed with very low sleeves, low cut lines, and often very large breasts. This could imply that females should be sexualized in their dress when it comes to video games. However, this can also result in real effects, such as unrealistic expectations in women on their shapes and dresses. And they pointed out that children can and do learn gender roles via the media, and video games are just more interactive media than, say, a TV or a movie. Now, Burgess and Sturmer analyzed the cover art of gender portrayals in video games. What they found was that there were actually many female characters were often accompanied by a male character, whereas males were not as often accompanied by a female. This implies that females are either weak and they need the support of men, or the protection of men, that they are unimportant to actually have their own lead role, or they are not desirable as just a character in general. And what this can mean is that they imply that females actually need the assistance of males in order to succeed. However, female primary characters were often low objectified, whereas their male counterparts were not. And additionally, the only time that females were actually sexualized the most often was as a female ancillary character, which implies that women should only be a background object that is usually hypersexualized. Christopher Rainier took the study a little bit further, and he analyzed trends in sales as it related to the video game art cover. What he found was that when females were portrayed by themselves, they often reduced sales. Additionally, regardless of if the primary character that was a female was sexualized or not, it still continued to reduce sales. And finally, that if a female character were to increase sales, they would often have to be sexualized in order for it to work. Again, implying that females are only desirable as a background object that is often sexualized. Now for the debunking. The most common objection is that video games are for males, and that males' demographic is larger, and that they represent boys from 17 to 25. However, this demographic is changing. As you'll see on the slide, that over 45% of women are now part of the demographic, and women over 18 are actually taking up a higher demographic than our boys under 17. Additionally, the other objection is that female protagonists do not sell. However, there is a self-fulfilling prophecy against this. As Jeffrey Zatkin pointed out on the slide, that many female protagonist lead games often have a lower budget than do males with a lead game. Female characters often have a 40% budget compared to the males. So this often results in that female characters will usually have a lower quality game, which usually results in a lower quality of sales, which then enforces the potential hypothesis that female characters do not sell. However, they are often not even given the chance to show how well they can do. Finally, there are some changes to the video game industry. My first example is that of The Last of Us. Sony and Naughty Dog had gone on to argue about whether Ellie, a subordinate character who is female, should be in the forefront of the video game in front of the main character, Joel. Sony had wanted Joel to be in the front, however, Naughty Dog kept their stand and continued to produce the game with Ellie in the forefront. Now, as Christopher Rainier pointed out, if there appeared to be a central female character, they often reduced sales. However, this game went on to prove that Sony was wrong, and that 3.4 million copies had sold, and it is now actually becoming a hit. Lastly, the evolution of Lara Croft. Lara Croft is seen as one of the most infamous female characters, as she usually has some of the largest unrealistic breasts, and is often dressed fairly underdressed actually for her adventurous role. However, in the newest release of the reboot Tomb Raider Legends, Lara Croft is pictured mostly dressed and with realistic breasts. However, this did not change the success of the game. The game continued to go on to sell over 1 million copies in less than 48 hours, proving that sexualizing a character does not have to be done in order to sell. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.